is gonna be our,
I think we'll get started. I want to remind everybody the
stand vice chairman.
meeting is going to be recorded and will be on our Soil and Water YouTube channel later on. So, meeting will come to order, and does anybody have any public comments for the meeting today? Does anybody have any public comments they'd like to bring up to the meeting? Does anybody have any public comments? If not, we'll move on to the agenda. Have approval?
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Move
carries.
approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, all in favor of the consent agenda approval?
Second
Aye.
first.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries on the consent agenda. The watershed, one plan.
You got the other sheet for that?
We have to approve the treasurer's report for the one plan.
Just wanted to let you know, we did get the next 40% for the 18-19 grant. That came, actually, no, October 16th, so just over that for a board meeting. And, you know, we had to have all the 50% spent before we could get the next 40. And actually, with actions that be taken later, we should be down to 31% left of the grant. So we just need approval of the.
Do we have
report. If you
approval?
any questions?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the treasurer's report. Next, we have the, an update.
The bills bill.
Generally, the update, there's not a whole lot other than our bills payable. We, like I said, we'll be at 31% after these bills are paid from invoices from all the other districts in county. We are possibly looking at an amendment to the work plan coming up later this month with the policy committee. We're gonna bring it up to them, and if they're agree with it, then we'll take it to each of the districts, or each of the boards. And it's basically, for the most part, it's gonna be with Fillmore SWCD moving some of their nutrient management and soil health technical assistance to just general technical assistance. So it stays within the same entity, just spent on a little bit different.
Are these the bills payable you're talking about?
Yeah. So the bills payable are on the back of that page for the 18-19 grant, the stuff in red. And if you go to the second page of that packet, it kind of tells you what a lot of the stuff is what it's spent on. There's quite a bit of cost share that went out this time for grade staves and grass waterways. There's also nutrient management and soil health assistance. Working with the city of Mabel for Fillmore SWCD. I don't know how many feet, I haven't got the number of feet yet, but there's 6 landowners for grass waterways in Mower County. They were able to get a lot done this year. Red River SWCD had a bunch of waterways and grade staves and a stream bank restoration project. Winona County worked with St. Mary's on PTM map modeling of the watershed that kind of models where there are maybe I was gonna say high priority, I don't know if that's quite right. but,
Yeah, where there's.
susceptible areas of the
Right.
watershed are for erosion and water quality. So for us, is working a lot of technical assistance for cover crops and, working on some ponds and designs and things like that, and grant administration. So the total for that grant comes to $159,975.06. So we would need you guys' approval on that bill table, but we won't, it's not official until it goes to the policy committee for approval.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the bills payable.
And that was for the 18-19 grant. And we would need it also, the last page is for the 2021 grant. And there's a few projects that were completed under the cost share for Red River. The rest was doing more of the project development and technical assistance and admin for Fillmore, Red River, and Winona County SWCD.
Biggest one upside here. That is
That's a
the biggest
total of
one.
$24,036 and change.
So we need approval for that too.
Yep.
So moved.
Approval.
Second.
All in favor of,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries to approve the payables, $24,036.
I guess I did have one more update on, it's not to do with the grants themselves, but the federal government, we also have a $497,000 and change in cost share from the federal government for these, for the Red River. And a lot of our technical assistance is going to those projects also. They had, I don't remember how much, $1.5 million or something that went out to all the pilot watersheds in the state. One watershed's not using hardly any, so they're gonna redistribute a bunch of that among the other watersheds, so we'll probably get more cost share from that, for the Red River also.
So does that bring the total to the 1.4, or will that be in addition?
That isn't part of our grants, that's federal money.
Okay, so that's
So-
not showing in the 1.4.
No, that doesn't show in
Okay.
this. It's what a lot of our technical assistance goes to though, not just the state money, but also the federal money. I think that's all we have on the RIP, unless there's other questions.
Okay. Next we'll move on to the grant agreements, cost share contracts. We have,
You have to make the page like this. So the 2019, if you look at the top, one of them says 2019 under the cost share contracts. And the stuff in yellow is what we're looking at for actions. And the first one is a payment for William and Jessica Miller for their Oriental Bittersweet Control under the Cooperative Weed Management Grant.
Yeah,
Oh, we have slides
there's a
for it?
map on there. There should be like a Miller map. Yeah, I tried to take some photos out there, but everything is just kind of blending in, so you couldn't see anything that I actually took a photo of, so I figured I'd just show the map, the area that was treated.
Just blend in there a little bit. Yep.
So they had, just over 15 acres that was treated, and, Summer Valley Forestry did that for them. They did a nice job out there, and, hopefully we can start seeing the impacts here of properties that have been treated. This site also, especially on the uphill side, so on the, east side, had, a lot of buckthorn that, the Millers were talking about, either doing themselves or having Summer Valley Forestry do as well, so, is that not working? I didn't.
I think the battery must be pretty low because I can see it, but it,
Is that down in Pleasant Valley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most of our Oriental Bittersweet sites are in Pleasant Valley, with the exception of Roger Roroff's, which is over in Cedar Valley. And I've seen it spreading from this area as well. There's some other areas that do have it, but, I've been in contact with a couple new people calling interested in Oriental Bittersweet projects or just information. Some of them thought they had a big problem, or it's really just a few fines here and there, and others, have had plenty of Oriental Bittersweet, but didn't want a contract, they're gonna do it themselves, so, hopefully I've got one more person I've been trying to contact to get another contract going, but, yeah, the Millers here, their site is treated and complete. Zumber Valley Forestry is also coming back in the spring to, respray any regrowth, which is part of our contract. MDA would normally do that for us, however, on this particular site, MDA does not have funding secured for next year. It's still up in the air, and so they can't confirm that they can do it, so Zumber Valley Forestry has committed to doing that, for the Millers.
So are we making progress now?
Quite a bit down in Pleasant Valley has been treated either through our grant here or with MDA has done quite a bit as well. When MDA goes out to sites, though, they have the youth group going through, and they are targeting berry producing vines. Not every vine, so there's still a lot of male vines out there that are damaging trees, and things like that, so. Yeah, there's a folder for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, we're starting to get there. Winona County, Ann Morse and her interns have also done a lot of work individually with landowners to, teach them how to treat sites on their own and also provide them with chemicals, so. There's quite a bit of work going on in the area. There's still a lot of smaller tracks where, people don't seem to be doing too much. I'm not sure if they understand the situation, but we've been trying to reach as many as we can.
My last trip down the valley, I noticed an awful lot in the county right-of-way.
Yeah.
How is that dealt with?
The right-of-way only goes out, was it 50 or 60 feet? And most of that in the valley is mowed if it's not too steep. Other than that, a lot of it is within individual private landowners' property. So it's just hoping that they take care of that, and, I'm not sure if the county has other funding to try to attack what is in the right of way or not. I know Ann Morris has been working with individual property owners, not with, county.
There's quite a bit real close to the highway,
Yeah,
and it's obviously in the county right-of-way.
yeah, okay.
We've discussed that some at the, Road and Bridge Committee from time to time. Are you talking about right in Whiskey Valley?
No, I'm talking about Pleasant Valley.
Pleasant Valley.
Yep, coming down the hill. The blossoms are all quite orange now, so it's pretty noticeable. There's quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
Most of it on the east side, but there's even some on most of it's on the west side, but a little bit on the east side too.
Okay. I'll bring it up in our next.
We're gonna have more, just waiting for this conversation. So there's another one on the back side of that page is the Dwayne Tim feedlot project. And that's part of the, 319 low cost fix. Here's a picture of it.
Yeah.
You had another document, you want that too, or just this one?
Well, we can go to that one after
Okay.
this. It's the map of a potential fix that we've got in mind for it. So this is the feedlot site. Currently, there's just a small portion that's concreted up above, kind of, next to the lean-to off the barn. The majority of it is earthen, and, he's got a combination of dairy heifers and beef cows on this site that he winters up here. Our goal is to reduce the amount of area being used as feedlot, and then put in a runoff control system, with a filter strip so that the cows, aren't utilizing this entire site, all season long. So if you wanna go to the,
That's not at the dairy site, is it?
This is, no, this is, just west.
Down. Yeah, it's not at his house either, though.
That's Dwayne's farm.
Yeah, it's,
That's, I've worked with Dwayne for years and I don't remember, I don't recognize the backside of that barn.
he's got the newer lean-to just to the east.
Okay,
On
makes
the
sense.
same,
Yeah,
site.
yeah. No, I see where you're at, yeah, cause you'd actually be looking back,
Yeah,
I get it
that photo
now.
was looking northwest.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, and then this is, what we're hoping to do to, solve the issue here, adding a stacking slab off to the east side of the lot. He wants to incorporate drive-by feeding on the south end of the lot, so that he doesn't need the additional area to feed on. The earthen portion in the lot, is quite mucky and nasty. He won't be able to get a bale feeder in there if he were to try. So he needs somewhere to feed. So the goal is to put a drive-by feeding on the south end there with, a grate and a sunken, concrete chute that he can drive over to get all the water down to the lower, level spreader, which is that concrete strip on the south, and then that blue area is the filter strip, which would, let the water drain out and infiltrate to the ground with, two sectioned off, flash grazing pastures that he would have access to as well.
Yeah, cause behind that barn, it starts to,
Drop, and then, water and sediment control basin or pond has been put in just south of this as well, which everything drains to. So we wanna make sure that's all treated before it gets to that location and then goes out down the valley behind it, so. So the cost estimate we have on this is around $36,000. The maximum we can provide with our 319 funds is $15,000, up to 50% of their cost, so. We're looking at.
How come it's lower, like only 50%?
That's what the 319 grant allows, is only 50%. It's generally what we call as our low cost fix. However, costs have gone up since the kind of initiation of this grant. So. And it's really our only pool funds for doing feedlot runoff control anymore, unfortunately, so.
yeah, I know that area. I know what he's doing there behind that barn, and that's been it's not on him, but it's always been that's like
Yeah.
almost a perfect direct runoff back there.
Yeah.
So it'd be a good project
is
to see done.
Is there some pretty good grade to that ground?
It's not a terrible grade, but that's why I was looking at that barn. I couldn't figure out, cause he has 3 locations. I was trying to figure out which barn that was, cause each one of them have a white barn on it. So I was trying to figure out which one I was looking at. But it's like a gradual, just right down into the valley. It's like, just makes a hook and goes down right behind that barn. And then if you get up over the knoll, it does it again, and then it get over the next knoll and it does it again. Cause all the land between where Dwayne lives, and then where the dairy is, which is where his dad lives, and then they've got one more farm on the other side of that. It's the same roly-poly, and then every one of them hooked down into the valley.
Going to the white water, yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be a good project.
Where's this located at?
It's
Right on the county line
Yeah.
between Wabasha, Winona, and Olmsted.
It's up above,
kinda like-
Beaver.
Or not Olmsted.
Above Beaver?
Wabasha.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you went all the way to the top of the Beaver, and then, or if you took, do you know the minimum maintenance road up the backside in Maury Young's, and then hook it right? If you hook it right, he's right on the county line, so he's
Up there
about a
by
mile
Brazil's
down
and
from
stuff.
Maury. So back to the east on 27.
It's out past Steve here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just past
Yeah.
Steve, or
Yeah.
Ben Keyser out there.
Well, the one side would go to the Indian Creek, wouldn't it, the home farm?
The whole
Right,
farm
the
on
main
other side.
dairy.
Home farm would,
Yeah.
yeah, and then as you go,
The other two would go to the white water.
the dairy goes to the Indian Creek, the other side goes to White Line.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would there be money available through the One Watershed plan? When that gets started, to assist him with this, so he wouldn't have such a large cost?
That cost share is
Not-
at least 2 years down the road yet.
Okay,
And we've already been working with them for 2 years on this.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of been start and stop just with, engineer availability and then just finances, so.
Would this qualify though, if the money was available now?
Probably.
Probably, okay.
You know, you even look at the dairy, technically that swale goes back under the road, doesn't
Oh,
it?
that does? I haven't
Some
looked
of
at
the
the
Because it
policy
goes-
on that
yeah,
one.
part
Yeah,
of it
it
looks like
kinda,
it goes
cause there's a
through
dip, pretty big dip in there, you know?
The road
No,
is
this
roughly
would be
the
a-
boundary, but not exactly.
What's that?
The road's roughly the boundary, but not exactly,
Yeah.
between Whitewater and Indian.
No, it'd be a good project. I know that. I've been in that yard many times.
So can we approve both of these with one motion?
Yep.
I so move.
I'll second it.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve, that. So,
So next one would be the Craig Marker one.
yeah,
The reason this is different is these funds come through the Joint Powers Board. We don't actually hold them at all, do we? We have, but it's not a, it's a contract we have, not an actual grant. So it's a little different the way this works, so. I don't know if you wanna talk about this project?
Yep, so, this project, finished up kind of mid-October here with everything, actually just before the end of September, I think. I think we extended it through the end of October just in case. And it seems to be working out really nice. He's got grass that was starting to green up out there. As you can see, they did a couple touch-ups in their waterways around the edges there, after some of the bigger storm events we had this summer. There weren't very many, but there was enough. Kind of on this first stage here, kind of on the lower end, you can see initially he was using a pump to put it down the ramp, and since then they had gotten the pump in the barn working to pump it to the first stage pit. The first stage fills up and then drains the liquids out down to the lower pit, which is on the upper side of the photo there. We've got a second photo too with the that lower pit. And so everything, all the liquids come down here along with some runoff from that feedlot, which you can just see the corner of on the top side of the photo. So everything's working good out there, and our other financial assistance agency was able to sign off and provide their payment. So we've got an additional $175,000 on this to get them as close to 90% as possible on this project. So yeah, it was a big project, a few delays and pushbacks and issues with like getting the pump in. It was supposed to come in from Canada. There was no trucks coming in from Canada to haul it for us, so they had to go and get a different pump from St. Cloud, and it was quite the kind of headache there in the end, trying to make sure all the pieces fell together, but got it all done and.
Now this one here is mostly water?
This lower pit is water, only water, cause
Only
the
water.
runoff that's coming off of that lot just to the, top side of the picture here, it holds the solids back on the lot.
So is that an evaporation pond or what? I mean,
No,
what's the
there's-
intent with once the water's in it?
So they put in a ramp there, so they
Yeah.
can, easily back in, an auger, and so they pump that out
So you pump water to where?
into their spreader and then out into the field. Either into the spreader or if, in the future, if they get one of those long hoses that they, drive around with.
I guess that's new to me.
So is the upper one then thick enough where they haul it with North spreaders or liquid tankers?
It's designed to be scraped out. It's full concrete in the bottom and side slopes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's still gonna be some, liquid form to it just because not all the water's gonna be able to drain off of it, but the intent is to scrape and haul it. There just won't be enough moisture in the upper pit to be able to, agitate it,
Okay.
so,
They use sand bedding.
yeah,
So that's the point of that.
yeah.
They're applying the water the same as manure, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
They have
they'll-
to take tankers, they have to fill the spreaders with the water.
The hardest part is when you use sand bedding is it settles so bad. And then it just, because of the density of it, you just can't keep it in the solution. So the idea is that most of your Valley Acres get a hold of you. I tell you, see, a lot of these dairies fight this problem. So they, in order to get the sand out, they have to have a concrete lined pit to be able to drive into it to get it. But at the same time, they don't want to deal with the unevenness of the water. So what this does is it actually creates a scenario where you have a more concentrated manure source that you can spread out and knowing what that is. And then you have a more diluted manure source that you can spread out and know what that is. And it creates a scenario where you have much better management of your nutrient control and your nutrient management plan because you're not trying to keep those solids in suspension.
Well, that's exactly where I was.
Yeah, this is a really, this
So
is the
feed-
battle with sand.
So I'm wondering from Winona County standpoint, the feedlot officer creating or enforcing or monitoring nutrient management plans, manure management plans.
That was part of this project. It's an RCPP, so a good portion of it's EQIP, and it requires that nutrient management portion of it to be updated annually. And that's something that the
Pretty
landowner
standard,
does
yeah.
to follow NRCS standards.
What you're gonna have is a more uniform
You have more
application,
uni-
because every load in that pit's gonna be the same, and every load in the water pit should be the same.
Well, you can agitate the water pit, you really can't agitate sand very well.
Right,
So you get better distribution, but the other thing you get is you actually get less events of overflow or runoff, because the problem with the liner pits is they usually begin to develop sand that you can't get agitated over time, so, and then you can't get in and get it out. So what happens is because there's a huge cost to get all that sand out, they tend not to do it as much, leading for a larger potential of a big rain event and the pit overflowing. So this gives you the ability to keep the pit clean all the time, and it gives you better management because you really have two storage basins where if you do get a big rain event, you can pump off that pretty low nutrient dense water pretty fast and go put it out in the hay fields and not have to worry about, wrecking your nutrient management plan while still keeping your solid basin.
yeah.
Is there much value in that water then?
There is,
from a
but
nutrient
it's
standpoint?
amazing when you look at just stationary pits that have been agitated well or not agitated well, and it can literally, nitrogen can literally fluctuate 10 times. I mean, you'll see some at 3 and some at 30. So that just really depends on how well they get that pit agitated. I've taken tests out of pits before, back when we did a lot more of this with dairies, that would range that far in 5 samples based on how well they agitated it. So, and then, they put it out on the fields, and let's say you put 10,000 gallons out. Well, one field might, at 10,000 gallons, you're getting 30 units in, and the next one's getting 300 units in that. And then they'd wonder why this little strip was yellow and this strip was green, and that didn't dry down, and that was falling over, and it's just how they work. So this gives you a lot of control, and it gives you the ability to actually keep the pit clean, but not have to build 2 concrete structures, because the concrete structure is a lot more expensive than the line structure. So,
Will much of that water evaporate?
some of it will, yeah.
Will that just mean the remaining water is more concentrated?
Yeah. yeah.
There's,
And then-
Steve, there's a number of these up on the ridge. Joe Kreidemacher, I think, has one. Paul Glendy has one. They're getting more popular.
It's just a lot. They're very popular if you use sand bedding, and sand bedding's used, to control somatic cell count, a few other things. So when they started using more and more sand in the traditional lined pits, they weren't able to keep these pits clean, and then it pushed them to capacity because, a certain percentage was just sand on the bottom that they could never get agitated no matter how hard they tried.
A lot of the liners ended up getting ripped up too.
Yeah, and then their liners start getting ripped up because they were trying to get in there and get it out, and it just got to be a mess. So this is by far the better way to do it.
And We don't have a drone for this footage. Is this the NRCS's?
Oh, no, actually, I believe this was, the DGA, Nathan Pesta, had taken a drone out there to take these photos, so. Cause at the time that this photo was taken, NRCS wasn't out there at all, or at least the.
They have
That guy.
flown and put
Yeah,
together, they're working on a video.
They're working on a
for stuff.
video, they're gonna do a kind of a shorter snippet and then a longer video talking about the specific site, how it works for landowners and things like that, so.
So hopefully down the road, they'll be able to share that YouTube video.
Yeah.
So,
Were those pits designed for any expansion at all, or?
No, not really. This one, I believe, is a 13-month storage. And that's basically the maximum that we can kosher on. So really what it could do is if you were to expand in the future, is you just reduce the number of months storage you have.
Yeah. My experience, you never build it big enough.
Right.
It's like a shop.
Yeah.
Never build it big enough till you gotta pay to eat it.
So we just.
Where we at, Leo?
Approval on that.
so we need
Unless you have questions.
approval of that. We'll need a motion to approve the plan, or the whole,
We
If you look
approved
at
both
the
of them already.
agenda, no, this is separate.
Oh, this one's separate?
So moved.
If you look at the agenda, the highlighted, or in gray, the 175,602.80.
Oh, okay.
That's what our payment would be.
So moved.
Second.
all in favor of the motion to approve the Craddock, cost share payment?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Daryl, did you say Valley Acres is not gonna own
I haven't heard from them, but I don't know if they've talked to.
Who is it?
it? Valley Acres, Gary Tweets.
Yeah, he did call, and I talked to him, and basically the only option right now is to go through, e-book on that, and he was hoping that there was something quicker. I told him all we had was that 319 up to, I think we've got 14,000 left then, and that just wasn't.
No, but if that cycles again in the next year or something, is that gonna?
Not after the fact, he was looking to get it started, like
Yeah,
right now.
I know.
So there's no way we could line anything up with him unfortunately, so.
When could we, or when could that fall into place?
Yeah, the only thing we have right now is about 14,000 under 319. And then we'd have to make sure that everything is engineered to standards, and we would need time to get that all in place.
Okay.
So, yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do, but,
I sent them your way, so.
yeah, no, I talked to him, we had a good conversation about it, and, so.
We'll move on to the new business, Progressive Safety Day. Is that something that's still in the works, or what's happening?
Yeah, so there's a PowerPoint here, and I don't know if you want me up there or just talking from back here.
I think you can talk from where you are.
So, they are moving forward with safety days here, and kind of just wanna let you guys know what we would be expecting with COVID-19 now. So what we know, so I had a webinar training, a couple weeks ago. They have gone virtual at least through the end of 2020, and it's looking like they'll go virtual through 2021 as well. It all just kind of depends on how things end up turning. If there's a vaccine, that could change, we don't know. Progressive Ag has put together a 6-module series that's about 2 hours long. It can be done all at once or in intervals, and it allows for schedule flexibility for schools, which is kind of nice. They're not having to go to and from a site. They can incorporate hands-on activities, so we can have, there's kind of breaks in between some of it, or kind of talking points, and they can do like an in-class activity if we provide materials for them to do it, like putting together a first aid kit, or making a stress ball, or things of that nature. It has to be something simple for the teachers to be able to, help them with, and things like that, but, And then, they'll still get their t-shirts and goodie bags. We would just apply those to the schools and they would hand them out to their students. So the Safety Day modules that they put together, there's a lot of things that they cram in here into YouTube videos that are anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes long. And they'll kind of put 2 or 3 topics together in each of them. So they've got electrical, bike, and utility safety. They have actually a lot of mental health and stress on here. They've got 3 videos that have 5-minute segments each on mental health and stress. A lot to do with COVID-19. Then they got the ATV safety, sun and heat, hydration and chemical, lawn equipment, hearing safety, then grain, gravity flow, auger, PTO, and animal safety. Any of those modules we could replace with our own videos as well, or we could, they have all of these modules have 2 or 3 smaller videos combined together, so we could take other videos of theirs that we like better and put them together. And then there's also a YouTube link there. I don't know if Carol wants to click on that. We can kind of watch part of a module or something, but they cram a lot into that 2 hours that students can watch virtually. And it's all put together through a Zoom meeting that I would have to manage and, you know, get everything on their screens and take it down, and then I could talk again between segments and things like this. That's something that I'll definitely have to kind of practice on and make sure I know how to do that before an event would happen. Virtual Safety Day also allows us a little bit of flexibility in when we host it. And then working with the teachers to figure out what works for them, kind of what dates or ranges, morning, afternoon, if they want it all at once, broken up or whatnot. So I don't know if you want to click on that link there and check out a portion of the video or anything, but. There's nothing come up on this side though. And I think it fits well for that 3rd grade age group.
Anyone in particular want me to? Display
You can just
logo?
start with that one, yeah. Basically, they've taken some,
Hello, boys and girls.
Presenters
Glad you
and
can
have
be a
them do
part of our
videos.
Farm Safety Day Camp this year. My name is Tony Harvey. I'm an agriculture representative with Alliant Energy. That means I work primarily with our farm and agribusiness customers to get electricity to their locations to do the work that they wanted to do. Another part of my job is we want to try and keep them safe around the electricity that they use. Now, electricity does a lot of great things for us. I want you today to go around your home and count all of the different things that you turn on or push a button that uses electricity. I bet you're going to find way more than you think. The average Midwestern home has over 100 different items that use electricity, and if you have a farm and go around the farm, you'll find even more. And of course, for me, the most important piece of equipment in the house is the freezer, because that keeps the ice cream cold, and I like ice cream. All right, today I'm going to talk about how to be safe around the farm and talk about 3 different ways that it's important that we recognize where electricity is and how we can be safe around it. Number 1 is obey the signs. As you go around your town, your community, and around a farm, there are often signs that are put up in different locations where there's electricity. I brought a couple along here today to show you. One here is danger, high voltage. When you see danger, high voltage, or this particular one, which says warning, it has a number of different diagrams on here just saying, warning, that means we stay away. We don't go in and play around those. We don't plant or put things on that
You're
kind
gonna
of
skip ahead a little.
or in.
But,
Just a little snippet anyway?
yeah, so it's just, they put together, a bunch of small individual, topic, videos, and then they strung a few together to make their 10 to 20 minute segments for their modules. So, and then what we don't know is, will in-person safety days be allowed in 2021? Because obviously it's much easier to reach and get that interaction with kids one-on-one or in person. which schools would have interest in incorporating another virtual learning component. You know, they're already stressed on how they have to do things and kind of throw things together, and how to troubleshoot if issues arise. I have no idea how to do that, so it's definitely something I'll have to play and practice with ahead of time to make sure that I can make it so it's a seamless experience for the teachers and kids. Our 2021 application was automatically rolled over to 2021.
2020.
Yes, I realized I said that, I go, oh. So we're already on the books for doing a 2021 Ag Safety Day, but it's something that we could also turn down if you guys felt like it's not something to move ahead with. We do have $775 in donations that rolled over from 2021. And then we don't want to lose momentum. We had one safety day, and then 2020's was canceled. It'd be nice to keep going with this if we can. So when it comes to the virtual safety day, it'll take 1 or 2 days worth of running the Zoom meetings with the teachers and students. We won't have to put together presenters because it'll all be videos already on there.
Have you talked to any schools to find out what their interest level is?
Not yet. We wanted to see if you guys were interested in still moving forward. I was working with Caroline Dinkler, and we were initially gonna see if we wanted to start contacting schools and talk to the rest of the task force, but we had kind of worked together to decide. First, we need to know if you guys want to move ahead and continue with Safety Day. I'm personally hoping you do, because I think it's a great service to the students.
What I think is, first, you should find out how much interest there is in it, and if there is,
Yeah.
a fair amount of interest, then I think, what the consensus of the board here is, but that we would go, but, right now, I don't know
Right,
if there,
yeah.
The nice part about this, even if you only have one school that wants to do it, you can do it. I mean, it's all virtual.
Yeah.
So
Well, and in the past, we weren't able to get the Winona area schools because of transportation. Well, we could have all the schools jump on now, we don't know.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Mhm. So, yeah.
But being that it's virtual, that might, yeah, and you say the time, if there's so much, difference, in person and virtual, so if that affects it or not, I don't know.
There'll be less upfront legwork for me doing virtual, but depending on when schools are available, if we offer 1 or 2 days or times or whatnot, so that if all the schools can't do it at the same time, we can offer it twice. It's basically 2 hours of your time twice, plus setup and whatnot online, so.
Are most of the schools open for attendance now?
No.
A lot of them have had to send students home because of COVID exposure in their
Yeah.
classrooms.
I think pretty
know
much
my son was
everybody's
one.
on virtual right now.
Yeah,
Or at least a hybrid.
yeah.
Yeah,
If it could be shown at the schools when the students were attending school,
That would be easiest.
that would be ideal.
Yep.
And I would think there'd be tremendous interest in it.
Mhm.
Kids always wanna get out of the normal routine and
Right.
see a movie or
So do we need a motion to go ahead with it?
yeah.
I so move that.
second.
All in favor of the motion to continue with Farm Safety Day in 2021?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah. The CARES Act funds, the Winona County request, we have an update on that. Darryl?
Yes, when we got the final bids from the company, it came in higher than we expected, but I was hoping to be under 10,000. It ended up between the computer stuff and then just our little minor stuff with the masks and hand sanitizer and stuff like that. The total came to 20,349 and change, and we got, the county approved that last week.
And a meeting before last, or, yeah, a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, meeting before last.
So
That's still going on.
we have that order into to
Yeah, we
Iron Core, the
requested.
company we're working with. Also, part of it's not just equipment, it also includes a monitoring, security alerts and protection contract. And that contract we've sent to MCIT and our county attorney to review before we sign that. So hopefully we'll get those equipment before it's needed. We were really close to needing it a couple times, but so far we've been doing okay.
Amanda, is that it for the CARES update?
Yep, yep.
Amanda, you have an update on,
AIS?
yeah,
Yep, so, this summer, we had Michael Ellman upload all of our bulk data from the last 5 years of monitoring. We've been reporting what aquatic invasive species and which terrestrial invasive species we see on the banks. So now that there's a program called EdMaps, that allows bulk upload, we're able to do that. There was a few reports that they weren't sure whether they were correct or not. They just seemed kind of off. And so I have been going out and double checking a few sites and realizing that there may have been either issues with when the app had been updated a couple times over the years, and the tool that Mike had used to put all the information together. So I've been going out and kind of correcting any records that needs correcting and submitting that data to EdMaps. So I finished that up. I've signed up for a number of webinars that are going to be coming up here in the next month or more. There's a ton of things going on right now with new programs and data out there for aquatic invasives that's been developed over the last year or two that they're pushing out now. Also working with Winona County right now, getting our prevention plan on the commissioner's agenda for the 24th. And then that'll be coming to the SWCD board in our December meeting.
okay. Daryl, do you have an update on the buffer law?
Yep, been working on the compliance monitoring. Just a couple days left probably in the field, and found just a couple that I had questions about, but nothing that was egregious. Everything is looking pretty good out there. Some of them are looking really pretty, really nice buffers, and they're doing a great job. And we have a couple that we're following up with this fall from previous that were.
Yeah, we've been trying to work with them all year, trying to get the buffer either reestablished or verify that there's actually 50 feet there. Friday I'm going out and checking a couple of those with folks who have gotten back to me with their tops off now. So.
It's looking good out there.
Okay. Steve, you have an update with the county commissioners?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today. So, yeah, as you already went over, the county has been distributing the CARES Act funds, and of course everything for the SWCD that came through was approved kind of uncontroversially, so just went through on consent business. At our last meeting on Tuesday, we borrowed $10 million to start the process with building the new jail. And so that originally I'd heard 10 to 12 million, and then 15, and then 20, and then 23, and now we're over 30 million is the projected cost for the jail. And I did support 10 million because I do believe that we need some type of place to bring our inmates into to stage them for a week, but beyond that, I'm not going to support any more funds. I think the solution, anything we do would cost at least 10 million, but I did tour the Houston County facility a couple weeks ago. Very beautiful facility down there, but I counted 15 inmates. 10 of those were from Winona County, and I counted 21 staff. So, I mean, the inefficiencies are frustrating.
and on the north side, we have Wabasha County that's
The
in.
last count there was 3 inmates.
That doesn't
Yeah.
happen in government, does it?
Yeah, so a lot of frustrations with where this is going, and then as, excuse me, as this COVID continues to play out, to me, it's more proof positive of how many people we really need to have incarcerated or in these facilities, because apparently we can get by with very low numbers, but the 3 city commissioners are forging forward with building a large facility, and it's gonna hurt our neighboring facilities, and we're gonna have to compete with it, with them for trying to justify having all these beds. So that's a frustration to me. From the standpoint of the 1-1 Mississippi Winona watershed, I think previous to your last meeting, the county board, maybe a day or two, or 1 or 2 days before that, had adopted or approved that. I wasn't here for your last meeting. I think I was in the fields that meeting, getting crops out. But so that was frustrating for me with the Root River One Watershed One Plan. Marcia Ward, that was largely in her district, so the county put her as the county representative. And with this Mississippi La Crescent Winona watershed, to me it seems like largely an extension of the Whitewater. It's the Whitewater watershed plus some other waters that flow into Mississippi. So I was feeling like we'd probably want a rural commissioner to represent the rural area. The city commissioners decided that they should put a city commissioner as the representative from Winona County. So there's no rural representation there. And of course, there's a lot of money in this pot. And so my concern is that the 3 city commissioners have the power. They're gonna bring that money away from the rural area into the city of Winona to work on whatever projects they want done in the city of Winona. So that's concerning to me. Even more concerning is that the Whitewater Joint Powers Board doesn't have a vote on that One Watershed One Plan either. So Western Winona County is represented pretty much right now by you guys, and so that's our only connection from a vote standpoint on that board. But then, you know, there's a city of Winona and a city commissioner. So I was frustrated that the city of Winona gets a vote on that board. And I would have thought the rural area should have been the other vote, but since the city has the majority, they went ahead and, I felt, stole that from the country. So we'll be relying heavily on this board to represent the needs of the rural area. So there's a lot of frustrations in all that, to me.
So the city of Winona qualifies for monies from this for some?
Sure, they're in the area. Yeah.
Any
They're a
community,
separate entity though, aren't they?
But they're within the boundary of the watershed.
Yeah, I understand that, but
so
Yeah,
any
so then they-
community within the watershed.
The way they developed it, they took, funds would largely be distributed based on votes from, how, what different areas determine as the greater good of the entire community. But to me, it looks like they're setting the stage, taking votes away from the rural area, stack it with the city, and, those are concerns to me. It is as it is. And, the whole, again, targeted rather than any willing participant. I mean, I don't know, I guess there's been a lot of talk about the healthy Lake Winona, and the train that I kind of feel is coming down the tracks is they want to spend money on Lake Winona, and the target's they're gonna say that's the target, and meanwhile, I don't know, you were talking about whether Dwayne Tim could get money for it, and you say, yeah, absolutely, he'd qualify. I don't know about that at all. It depends on where they'd say the target is, right?
I didn't say absolutely.
Well, okay,
But, yeah,
sorry. I see a lot of pieces changing, and where there's money, government, liberal government, electeds will follow, so. I guess I don't have too much else unless you have questions for me about, what the county board is working on. Yep.
I was in the laboratory when you were talking about the figures on the jail. You mentioned the 10 million. Is that for the smaller jail? Originally, there was 2 proposals in size. Is that still the case? They're looking at 2 different sizes?
They're looking at 78 and 98, which I have a lot of concerns about. My sense is the entire process is gonna be geared towards justifying the largest facility that they can justify. And my other concern is that they're gonna take a 98-bed facility where there's double bunks and just pull the bunks out of 20 of those cells and say, now it's a 78-bed, and still try to, personally, I don't trust any of, or a lot of what I'm receiving. To me, a smaller facility would be like 25 beds, which is not on the table. I mean, we need a place, in my view, we need a place to be able to bring people in, book them. They need to be dealt with over the weekend, and if they're gonna be in our facility, in my opinion, more than 5 days, we can afford to transport them to Wabasha or Houston. And you know, another one of the arguments was, well, we spent $300,000 this year just on the housing, not the transportation. Well, they're charging us $55 a day. We can't do it ourselves for $55 a day, so that $300,000, we're gonna spend more than that to house them here. So, you know, the liberal commissioner's argument is that we're spending all this money on housing somewhere else. Well, they're housing them cheaper than what we can, and they don't look at any of that. It's all about transportation. And if we had to transport every inmate immediately, so you take somebody in and you can't bring them to Winona, you have to take them immediately to Wabasha or Houston, that could be a problem. But if we have a base and we have 25 cells, I think we'd be fine. But so I'm concerned that this is just being largely overbuilt. We've seen the direction things are going. There's facilities that are just way underutilized throughout not just southeast Minnesota, but the entire. That's the direction the judicial system is going.
Is it a fair evaluation that why we're getting a discount to house our prisoners, whatever you want to call them, inmates, is because other people have made the same mistake and they're more than willing to bring these things in because, again, they push this agenda that for whatever, and that's why we're getting so, rather than taking advantage of other people's, and I don't want to say that this is not facetious, but taking advantage of other people's mistakes, now let's go make the same mistake.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you see playing out in Houston. At least they've got 15 inmates because 10 of them are ours. So they lose our 10, now they've got those 21 staff monitoring 5 people. And how much more inefficient does that become when you look at the rate of return or ratio of what the taxpayer is paying? So, and Wabasha County has made it abundantly clear that they lose more than $1 million a year outside of paying that facility off. It takes more than they'd save $1 million a year if they just shut that facility down and continue to pay it off. So yeah, I see us going down the exact same road that these other, and into the future, they're decriminalizing marijuana. I've heard of some states decriminalizing heroin and some of these other drugs, and ankle bracelets, ways to monitor people. Unless that person is a direct threat to the community, you know, murder, something like that, that person we need to keep off the street. But the rest of these people, I've been supporting every restorative plan that comes along, and again on Tuesday we had another plan come forward and I supported it. It was a grant for $275,000 to try to rehabilitate these people. So that seems like a much more into the future thinking, but to me, it becomes a double penalty to the taxpayer. We're gonna support all these programs, you're gonna pay for that, and we're gonna build a $30 million facility and do both. I mean, if the restorative is working, we shouldn't need this $30 million facility.
So the 10 million, Steve, is that what you are proposing for a facility that you want to spend?
I'm saying that, I'm acknowledging that we need to do something. They're closing
Right.
our facility, and to have no hub for our City of Winona Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, to have no facility in Winona County to bring those people into initially would be a financial mistake for us. I mean, the transportation would be, and how do you deal with that? You got, the court is in Winona, and so I acknowledge that we need to spend something, and because we were able to get money for 1.8% borrowing, that's an incredible low price on part. So I'm acknowledging that. I voted for the 10 million, and I made it clear that's where it ends for me. If you want more money, I don't agree with that. We need to spend more than that.
But that should build a facility that will make Winona County able to deal
Yeah, we can
with.
look. I don't get support from the 3 city commissioners, so they're just forging ahead with what they want to do, and they really won't hear. Marcia and I have asked time and time again, can we look at this from a budget standpoint? There has been zero talk ever, period, about is there a limit on what we should spend on this? It's just function, and of course the judicial system, the sheriff's office, the county attorney's office, they're gonna justify, and the committee that they've put together to kind of advise the county board, of course they're gonna all justify why they need everything that they need. That's what they're, but I don't represent them. I do represent them, but I also represent the taxpayer. And the taxpayer is very limited on being at that table, on bringing forward what we actually need. So I go back to Commissioner Rich Hall from Wabasha County, who told me, he said, yeah, I took all that information in, and they showed me how important this is all gonna be, and that we need, he said, I voted for that jail in Wabasha, and he says, as my legacy, he's ending December will be his last month as a county commissioner. He says, that's the one thing I feel the worst about as my time as county commissioner, is that my name is on that plaque and building that.
And Rich is a pretty level-headed guy.
Yeah. He said, in hindsight, he said the staff and the committees, and he said they all convinced me that was what they needed. He said my job was to represent the people, and the people didn't need that. So he said, so I take a lot of stock in getting advice from Rich. And
How large is the Wabasha and Houston County facilities?
I think Wabasha is 78 beds,
Okay.
and 3 of them being used.
Yeah.
And I just toured the Houston facility, but it's gotta be at least 50 or 60 for sure, maybe more. But pretty, adequate for the area.
So in comparison, how large is Olmsted counties? Because you got the city of Rochester with, they got probably more than triple the population Winona County has.
Oh yeah, more than that.
So how big is their facility?
So, well, when we look at what we need, we've looked at Goodhue, which has been fairly successful, and is one more place that we take inmates to because it's close enough. We look at Goodhue, Wabasha, ourselves in Houston, because we're somewhat similar, and just about any time, Rochester's like, when we go to KMC meetings, a lot of times Rochester doesn't even participate. They're just like their own little island. They do their own thing. Money flows freely. We don't do much comparison with Rochester.
Okay.
They're just not in the same, boat as the rest of the rural counties.
My point of that question was, if they got a 90 or 100 bed, and they're 3, 4, 5 times bigger than Winona County, why can the city?
The answer is that logic sometimes does not apply to a certain group of people, no matter
That's what
how
I'm
much
saying,
information you try to develop and put in front of them. they will stand firm in ignorance, no matter what it is, just because they've decided this is the way it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is kind of, nobody ever once in this discussion with jail has come to me and ever said, or when I've asked the questions, have actually had a legitimate reason to create something of this size based on actual need, not desire, not want, not hey, it'd be nice or what happens if, but need. And it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter the analytical evidence.
And I would think you look at how many you have average prisoners each month or a week or whatever, and build it for maybe 20–30% more, just in case, but.
Well, I'm okay with building it for 20–30% less, because we have facilities on each side of us that,
Yeah.
I just don't want us to have nothing. I mean, we need a place to, we need a home base. They need to have we need to have a place to bring these individuals in immediately when we bring them off the street for whatever the crime
So
is.
you can figure it out if they're gonna need to stay there for a bit, or they can go
Yeah,
someplace else.
if they're gonna be here for more than 5 days, there's no problem with spending the money on transportation and take them one way or the other. So I'd rather underbuild and have the facility 100% used than to way overbuild and have it sitting largely empty, because when it's sitting empty, the maintenance costs are there whether you use it or not. It takes money to keep that roof up in 20 years. And then it's so much easier for staff or for employees to justify, well, we've got this facility, let's staff it. And let's be the hub to bring other people into, and it just creates more
But they
development.
don't, nobody else has a reason to bring anybody to us because they're already overbuilt.
Mhm.
Like you
Except
said,
for perhaps
it's just amazing. It's amazing
Yeah, it's just-
ignorance.
Yeah.
In so many-
My opinion is it's just
so
plain
many parts
stupid.
of this country.
Yeah. that
Stupidity
doesn't make
to
sense.
be doing something that large.
I'm not gonna use that.
Because
word.
I don't think Winona, when was
That's
the
what
last
we're
time
at.
Winona County had 80–90 prisoners?
I think there's been times in the last 5 years where we've been near our capacity.
Do they anticipate, I guess I honestly don't know the answer to this, is Winona County growing?
No,
No.
Winona County has
think it was.
stayed the same since 1900.
That's what I-
We haven't grown, we haven't shrunk. It's been like the most
So are
steady
they
number.
anticipating more crime? I know the average median income has gone up, but it could be relative to inflation. Are they anticipating more poverty, more crime, or something that could lead to more I mean, what's the whole justification of going bigger?
Yeah, well, you read their report and they're fairly convincing in their justification on why they need the facility. I just feel like my job is to represent more than just the people who are on that committee and the judicial system.
Now, are those people still pushing for the larger facility, or are they?
As large as they can get, but even, it's gonna be 78 or 98, one or the other, and either one of them is way too big as far as I'm concerned. And I'm
I
concerned with
agree.
what's being presented to me there, whether it's all, you have to sort through it when you get the information for you.
So it sounds like we all need to make a phone call to our 3 city county commissioners.
Yeah, we did have one, person come in on day before yesterday and Tuesday, come to the podium and speak exactly to, the issue. He said, you're way overbuilding. They said point blank, you've got 3 liberal commissioners and 2 conservative. The liberal commissioners are, and for the 3 city commissioners, why not? This is gonna be built largely on property taxes, which is paid, disproportionately high by rural families. And who's it used by? The city of Winona Police Department, largely. I mean, we don't bring a single acre of land in to put in jail. But we're gonna tax the acres to build the jail. The population, the rural community needs a jail just like everyone else, but our population is, small compared to the concentration within the towns.
When I was when I attended the jail committee, it didn't take me long to figure out maybe I was wrong in just quitting attending, but it just seemed like it was, from the beginning, it was driving towards this way. And it really didn't matter, what anybody else said. Like Steve says that, they've got all of the facts and figures, and, you know, we need this type of jail. I can remember one meeting where, what do they call them? Demographers or?
Yeah,
Demographers where, you know, they had looked into the future, and we would need this size of jail because of the increase in crime and stuff. But you know, now with like Steve says, with the relaxing of you know, the drug laws and stuff, we really don't need that. If anything, you know, we should, I agree with Steve that we should, you know, stay with a smaller jail, but if we spend more money, it should be on rehabilitation, you know, and helping, you know, organizations within the community or whatever. You know, once these prisoners, or even while they're incarcerated,
Yeah.
you know, get them into some program.
Work with them, yeah.
Yeah. I know Ganrud told me that it's a revolving door. We keep seeing the same people, and it's all, you know, his percentage was 90% of them are dealing with some mental health issues, you know. So if we don't take care of that, it just keeps happening. So,
Yeah. To me, the proof is really in the pudding when an unexpected virus comes along and all at once we only need to have a fraction of the amount of inmates that we used to have. That's the true need where we're at now. I mean, we absolutely need to deal with that. And a couple more pieces that they won't really acknowledge is, first of all, we don't know how long coronavirus is going on. I think when it first hit, we kind of thought maybe by now we'd be on the tail end of it, but I mean, we don't know that we're not a year from the end of it. And then what's to say that won't happen again in 12 months, and this thing sits there completely empty, more or less, for years. And then public changes its perception on, you know, this is the new, potentially, this could be the new normal. You know, we're gonna do things differently. Large gatherings are gonna be less acceptable, and we need more space for inmates. And, you know, so what we're building was right for something 5, 10, 15 years ago, and it doesn't seem to me to project into the future where we're going. So, frustrating.
When is the decision gonna be made, Steve?
Well, largely, the decision has already been made and stands that we're building either a 78 or 98 bed facility, and Marcia and I can't get any traction to look at it, even get them to look at anything smaller. So, and at this point, they're saying 30 million is the projected cost for the 98 and 28.7 million for the 78 bed facility. So, not much difference in price there.
And I think
by the time that becomes reality, just tack on another 5 million, 10, I don't know.
And I think you projected the average increase in rural property tax to be like several $100s at least.
Well, so that's another way that they justify it is, you know, you break it down to the smallest unit you can, and it's really not that bad per person. And then another thing that I'm frustrated with is I've been working to make Winona County debt-free since the day I took office. 2021 is the year we become debt-free. So the city commissioners are all saying, all that debt service money, now we're just gonna parlay that directly into the jail. It's gonna be seamless for the taxpayer. They're not gonna know. So it's gonna look like your taxes aren't going up as much because the money that we used to use to service all our other debts is now gonna be used to service this new debt. So you're not taking on, but I'm saying that's not transparent.
What?
The jail costs what it costs, and the impact is what it is. And the citizenry has a right to have this tax decrease
It's just
that
amazing, eh?
I've worked so hard for the last 8 years to bring to the community. And they're just like, no one's gonna hear that.
People keep voting for that stuff.
We're gonna show how small the impact is still significant, but they're figuring ways to you know, super low interest rate, good deal, I mean, I can't deny that. Spread it out over 30 years, bring in this other money that we've been using for other debt service, and they'll make it as palatable as they can when you get your tax bill. But this year, Winona County, 0% tax increase, so happy about that, but that ain't gonna be it next year.
Well, you should be able to tell them that you said they were doing this other stuff, is all paid off. You said that people ain't even gonna know it, so then shouldn't need no increase next year neither.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay,
So what happens when Winona County needs, you know,
Anything else?
needs something else where they, you know, where they
Yeah.
go out and, you know, need to borrow money to, you know, maybe it's fix roads, maybe it's to.
Don't talk about that, that's
Bye.
about the jail, don't worry about that. Don't
We're
worry
in
about
the
it.
water.
You know, so yeah, we'll be debt-free, well, that's great. But, so then we can take all that money that we were, you know, what was that money financing? I mean, what was that debt? I mean, how did we incur it? And, so now we're gonna be debt-free, and we're gonna put all that money that we were paying on this debt towards the jail. So does anything else ever happen? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
Another thing that's a little bit frustrating, and I know Commissioner Kavesi doesn't even understand this because she's brought it up at multiple meetings. Every tax increase that you've ever had over your entire lifetime, all those tax increases stand, and once the government gets that money, they continue to get that money. And so if we need like a 6% increase one year, or 11% or whatever it is to build a jail, and then the following year we don't have an increase, the following year you're still getting that 11%, along with every increase that you've ever had previous to that. So Commissioner Kavesi had asked a question once about, I think she thought that if you had an increase one year, then the next year it was back to what it was before, and it's not. I mean, once you enact that increase, it's there forever, and the government's always taking that money. So, you know.
yeah. Okay, Kate Qualley, is there anything that she would have on
She just wanted an update that, the three interns, as Amanda mentioned, are working hard with, the Oriental bittersweet removal, and this is a 2-year grant, so we'll be continuing that next year as well.
okay, and your Whitewater,
Yep, we had the meeting in October, our meeting for December got rescheduled to December 16th because of conflicts, Olmsted and Wabasha SWCD. They moved their 4th Thursday meetings for the holidays up a week, so we decided to go the day before Wednesday.
What's day, I gotta make sure my calendar's right.
Yeah, December 16th.
Yeah, we moved
When you
it,
asked, I
still,
don't think you were at the last.
I don't think I was,
No.
yeah. The 8th, so, but that went to Wednesday, right?
Yeah, Wednesday the 16th.
Yeah.
There's no Sue today.
hmm?
There's no, Sue's not here for the NRCS report either.
Okay, so you're all done with the Whitewater? Supervisors, Jerry?
Yeah, just one quick thing. We already discussed the bittersweet, so I don't have to bring that up, but the green signs that go from the other counties to Winona County, I assume they're on the state highways. I'm not sure how many of those green signs there are, but the one from Houston County to Winona County, it's pretty much illegible
shot.
from the Houston side.
Yep.
And I don't know if the other ones are like that or getting that way or not, but who replaces those signs?
We do,
We do?
yeah.
That one
Is
needs
that
replacing.
Highway 76?
Yeah, 76.
We'll look into that and let you know what kind of costs we can find.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too bad.
Otherwise, I have nothing.
Andy?
I don't have anything.
Bill?
Oh, we had our Area 7 meeting a couple days ago. Randy Smith is going to be our chairman, and I'm going to be co-chair again. And Mike
Mark,
Ehlenfeld, Mark, yeah. Mark is going to be remain our secretary and treasurer. We, as far as our balance, statement, we're not, it's gonna be the same as it was last year. We're not asking, we're not raising anything. The NACD meeting that was gonna be held in Orleans, I think it was, that's gonna be virtual. They've already made that decision. So, being that it's virtual, that'll, save quite a bit of money too, as far as per diems and travel and all that sort of stuff. We had, what's his name, Tom, just west of Cotter, yeah. Had him, give a presentation. He's always very interesting and, knowledgeable, and showed some of the, some of the projects or practices that he's been using and stuff. And he had a drone. I don't know if their group bought this or what, but it was a picture of his land just west of Elberly, Austin, I think, yeah. And was after a pretty good rain, and his neighbor on the south side of 90, his fields were all ponded up, and a lot of that water runs over into his land too, and you could see that the water, you could see some water on his fields, but eventually it just disappeared, soaked into the water and stuff.
You see that even with the rain simulator. I think that rain simulator, this is just my opinion, but 2 decades of doing this, I guess if somebody wants to challenge it, I'll challenge it. Rain simulator is a good thing because it can show people the potential for runoff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've kind of hinged everything on no-till, and no-till's not going to fit everybody, whether it's psychologically or physically. And the reality of it is the better the soil structure, the healthier the soil, the actual nest leaf there, the more forgiving your soils are. So we see that a lot of times that we've taken away many of the negatives of conventional farming, where we don't have runoff issues. The ground is just capable, of, even on tilled ground, it'll just take that rain right in. There was I don't want to say a name, but there's somebody that everybody would know. We even had a get together there, and they had the rain simulator there. And it's a customer of mine that I've worked with for many years, and it was one of the night on the farm things, I think it was. And that person sitting there right next to me, because I've worked with him for years, and we're watching that go, and he says, "I don't have that problem on my farm, and I till everything." I said, "I know, that's a difference in soil health." So in very unhealthy soils, I think it amplifies that, where no-till can be maybe somewhat of a band-aid for a bit. Once we get those soils going, and we get that structure back, and we get that humus back, we don't see those problems near as much. Now there's obviously some major events, but you still get major, you still get that even with no-till. So.
Yeah. That was about it. We only had 6 people that are Rochester, and I think there was maybe the same amount on Zoom.
There were more board, there's about a dozen
There's about a dozen on
board
Zoom.
members, yeah.
Okay.
Josh, you have something today?
Sure don't.
No? Okay, I don't really have much either, so Daryl, district
Well, I
update.
want to congratulate all you guys that got elected. I think everybody, including Steve, was all opposed, so congratulations on your.
I think you got the most write-ins. I think you had 166. I had 152, and I think you had 130 or 120. something.
I don't know, I haven't even looked.
Yeah.
Write-ins?
Yeah.
People against us.
They're write-ins, whatever it
You
was.
guys all had over 19,000 votes.
Yeah, but it was kind of just, I always looked, even when I was, running for mayor, I always looked to see the write-ins, but they don't post them like they used to.
Most of them probably came from Pleasantville Township.
Yeah. Mickey Mouse, anybody but Andy, anybody but Josh, the typical, the haters out there.
On those write-ins, my daughter-in-law enlightened me with that. She said a lot of people, herself included, they'll take their children with to vote, and if the person's unopposed, they let the child participate by writing in whoever they want to. So some of that isn't just they aren't happy with you, it's just
Oh, I know.
they know you're gonna get them, they know you're gonna win, so they're just.
I always find it funny to watch that side. of it.
Well, I felt the same thing. I'm like, really? There's still 92 people that, even with unopposed, that.
I guess, I was gonna bring up the Envirothon.
I forgot.
Yeah, you wanna mention about the Envirothon?
Yeah, so the marathon this year will be virtual. There's no Area 7 event, it's all just a state event. Teachers have to sign up by December 1st or register by December 1st to show their interest in it. And they're still gonna do the 5 tests. The teachers will have to give the students a test. I believe they have to be monitored or whatever online with the video to make sure they're not doing any cheating and things like that. They'll have little video snippets put together for each of their presenters that they're choosing to kind of introduce the subject, and then they'll take the test, and then they'll do the next one, they'll take the test. It sounds like only the winners of whoever has the highest points in the test, I think the top 3 will have to do their oral presentation then and submit that afterwards, is what I was reading from what came out in an email, so. I've emailed all of our teachers in the county that are ag or science related. There's probably close to 30 of them now, and a number of them have changed, including Lewiston up here. He just graduated spring of 2020, so probably a pretty young guy. But so I sent out the email, haven't heard back from anyone yet, but they can also just click the link and register, and the state would know from that one. So hopefully we can get some schools from Winona County started if it's virtual and they don't actually have to show up somewhere.
I guess the only other thing I had was the groundwater video I talked about. If you guys want to see a couple short ones, the short ones are 2.5 minutes long each.
Okay.
I have one other item that I failed to bring up. County needs applicants for planning commission and board of adjustment and a couple other county parks and environmental, and I think that's only open through Monday for this coming year. So if you are either interested yourself, I think you can serve on more than just this board, or if you know of anyone, it should be nice to get a couple applicants in on especially planning and board of adjustment.
Who's the chair?
Of the county board for the next year, I would maybe guess Miss Meyer because she's vice chair, but I was vice chair last year and that didn't parlay into becoming chair, so.
I'll let Isaac know. He's got to file by Monday, you said?
Yes, yeah,
I know he's filed in the past.
yeah.
And one of the ladies down there did call him that to interview him basically before she
Oh, yeah,
appointed.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Karst Landscape is located throughout southeast Minnesota. Over thousands of years, permanent bedrock, also called limestone, is eroded away by slightly acidic water in rain and soil, creating karst features. Karst features include enlarged fractures, sinkholes, caves, springs, and disappearing streams. A thin layer of topsoil allows water to easily soak into the underlying bedrock. Once in bedrock, water moves quickly to shallow drinking water wells, springs, and streams. Although some rain and melting snow moves from the surface to groundwater through sinkholes, most soaks into the ground across the entire land surface. The distinction between groundwater and surface water is not always clear. Groundwater may emerge as a spring, flow a short distance in a stream, and then disappear. This same water could then re-emerge within hours or days, farther downstream again as surface water. Layers of shale are less permeable than limestone and hinder the downward movement of water. Instead, water travels sideways, following the easiest path across the shale. In areas of the landscape where the shale has been removed by streams or erosion, younger local groundwater from above the shale mixes with older and deeper regionally sourced groundwater. Younger water is often from aquifers located above shale layers and can be just days to decades old. Older water is typically contained deeper in the glacial till and bedrock layers and can be decades to centuries old. In many cases, drinking water is a mixture of both younger and older water.
what do you consider the depth of that old water? Or does that vary all over too?
It varies some, but I think it would be similar to what I have in my well. I'm at 580 feet.
Yeah,
But it also
Wildlife
varies
Karst
by where you are
Landscape
in
is
the
the scenic area where the
landscape.
river completes its 80-mile course to the Mississippi River. Long ago, powerful meltwater from distant glaciers carved large valleys and bluffs in the softer sandstone and shale bedrock layers. Groundwater movement in the uppermost bedrock layers and near the fractured valley edges can be very
I'll just give you an idea, a couple of videos out, they have some longer versions too, that get a lot more in depth. If you just do a search on YouTube, Southeast Minnesota groundwater, they pop up there. There's a couple of them, one's 10 minutes long, one's 7 minutes long. I kinda like these, they're more specific to our county and they're short and sweet.
Yeah, at our meeting, then you probably see those cavers, the speedlunkers that, were down in, I think it was Fillmore County, wasn't it? Yeah, it's, surprising how big some of the, caverns that they've found down there.
Yeah, one of the SWCD staff at Olmsted, he's very big into caving, and a lot of the videos you see are from him, actually.
Yeah.
And they'll go down in those and they'll have wetsuits and they'll go underwater and swim back to another cavern or whatever, or they'll be in water with their head against the top of the opening and just barely able to breathe. Not something I would ever do.
Yeah, it's all right as long as you can find your way back out again.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be afraid of.
I'm too
Drop
claustrophobic for
breadcrumbs.
that. So, that's all I have.
Okay. Personnel committee has to meet, is that within the next 30 days you want to set up?
Before the next board meeting, yeah. So I think what we usually do is the week before, so, it should be Leo and
Bill?
Bill, okay.
Yeah.
If you have an idea, what I was thinking is maybe the 2nd or 3rd of December, Wednesday or Thursday. If one of those work,
Yeah, I'm available anytime now,
okay.
so.
Set it up.
Okay, we'll just double check our calendars.
Okay.
Yeah, and send
Okay.
something out to people.
And then, pretty much that's it, the state, annual business meeting is December 8th, 9 to 11, 9 to 12 virtual.
Yep. Did you give something else on that? So that's the packet they sent out. They said it's not finalized yet, so there might be some updates, and if we get something, we'll send it out to you.
Okay,
They've been, apparently, not everybody maintains their email addresses, so they've been sending it to the office and letting us send them out to everybody across the state. Not.
Yeah, why are you looking at me? I mean, I know I'm guilty,
No,
so.
no, some districts, they
Oh.
don't have a email, office
Oh.
email, so the.
Don't
the
worry,
state
I'm not very
doesn't-
good at this one either.
Well,
I got
you
6
cleaned that
emails, it
sucker
just
out
gets
last
old.
time.
What's that?
When I sent you that text, you cleaned that out real good.
I just deleted the whole thing.
I got 354 things I gotta look at, I guess.
Click, delete all, got it.
I looked the other
There
day
you
to
go,
see
fill
what.
her up.
If we're sending you something, I usually send you a text to let you
Yeah.
know. So,
Yeah.
It's just.
okay. Next meeting is the 10th, and, you have a motion to adjourn?
So are we gonna meet up here for that
I don't need to know everything.
December 8th meeting, or we do that at home
It's
individually?
almost like
I was
trying to
assuming you had
justify
one
your
individually.
job.
Okay.
You know, like, the more information I send out, the busier
Unless
you
somebody
think I
can't do
am.
it, then we would be able to set up the
You know what I mean?
meeting in the
Yeah.
conference room.
So then how you get hooked up to that? Do they got a deal in here on how to do that, or are you gonna send us?
They haven't sent that yet.
Okay,
I don't think so. I don't think it was.
I
okay.
don't,
Josh, I have a question I wanted to ask you. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting. Next meeting is December the 10th.